Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry go live to create. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay.
Hello and welcome once again to TELUS Storyhive's On Location in Medicine Hat at the Art Room on 2nd Gallery. I'm Daniel J. Perryman.
I'm Michael Bartz, and this is
Ursula Maser.
Yes, thank you so much for agreeing to take the time and energy to meet with us, Ursula. I'm super excited to be here with you and have some of your work in the background and dive into that more later. But yeah, if you could just give us a little brief intro as to who you are and what it is you do, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'm Ursula Maser. I'm a painter from Irvine, Alberta. I paint mostly florals in expressive colors, and yeah, I'm part of the art room group, and I'm really excited to talk to you today.
If we kind of dive into your journey here, you know, if you were to try and go back in time to what maybe your first kind of introduction to art was, was that with your parents or family, or was it past that? What would that have been for you?
Yeah. So growing up, my grandfather, my opa, my mom's dad, was an artist. He taught painting at the college in Red Deer and in Olds. So that was kind of always a part of my childhood, was, you know, every wall in our home had art on it. My dad is also really artistic, and he does wood carving, and he's painted through the years, and you know, a few of my aunts are artists. So I feel like it was always encouraged, and we, like I said, we always had lots of paintings and sentimental art pieces in our home. So yeah, I think it was always encouraged in me from very young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of influence do you feel that had on you as a young person? And your
well, I would say actually as a young person, I was always a little bit of a worrywart. So, so I was the kind of kid that if I didn't think I could do something well, I would just shut down and be like, I'm not doing this at all. So actually by the time I was a teenager, I had completely quit doing art. I ended up flunking out of grade 10 art class because I would just get so in my head with comparison, and I think it was easier for me to just be like, I don't like doing this anymore. So I quit doing art for a long time, and then as a young mom, I kind of came back to it. I went through, you know, a bit of a postpartum depression, and in getting some help with that, it was recommended that I do some art journaling. So it was really good for me because it wasn't actually painting, it was more collage and you know, working with words and photos and that kind of thing. So I couldn't get into kind of a perfectionist mindset where I'd shut down and be like, I don't know how, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. So there was no pressure with it. So that was kind of the thing that started me back on I guess an art journey, but yeah.
Your personal practice, it sounds like, started kind of in that postpartum phase, and it was more personal, and you weren't really sharing any of the pieces?
No, yeah. So I took the classes with Maureen, and then I think right around that time, it was probably around 2015, so my youngest was about 3, and I was starting to make art more regularly, and I had, you know, a personal Instagram account, so I thought I would try sharing some of it online. And at that time, I was too nervous to even like have my name attached to the account. So it was kind of like an anonymous account. And so that was sort of the first ways that I started sharing my art. And then, you know, of course, family and friends are the ones that are like, oh, you know, I'll buy this painting from you, and it helps pay for your supplies and that kind of thing. And then I started an Etsy shop, and I remember I had my first international sale on there, and I was just so completely blown away that somebody that was in a different country could find me, buy something from me. The shipping ended up costing probably as much as they paid for the painting, but it was still just like mind-blowing to me that, you know, like what a world we live in, that people can connect with you through the internet like that. So it comes with, you know, its blessings and its curses, but yeah. So yeah, after Etsy, I kind of, you know, started selling a little bit locally through some different places, and did my own website and started teaching a little bit, and it's just come along very slowly and organically, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, and I'm super interested in that idea of like starting an Etsy and even like the personal Instagram account, and just like just because that idea of like that trepidation of attaching your name to something, I think is so palpable for so many people. So I guess I'm just curious, like. How did you like get over that, or did you not? But you just did it anyway.
Well, to be honest, like I said, my husband is a coach. So although I'm not an athlete, he was huge in encouraging me. Like I feel like he coached me for many, many years before he went into coaching professionally in his own way, right? But yeah, I probably would have quit 100 times over if he hadn't been like, no, just do it. Like it's good. Just it's a lot of your mindset, right? It's a lot of just getting over those mental hurdles, really. So I'm very grateful that I have a very supportive family. I don't take that for granted because I know not everybody has that.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have their encouragement, I don't know if I would have ended up selling or sharing things like I do now. So yeah, that's what it was. That's what got me going.
You mentioned being a mom, and that sounds like a large part of your life as well.
It is.
And so I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that. And I just, people, parenthood in general, and how people can maybe balance that, or just how creativity, practice of some sort can maybe serve that in some ways. What can you tell me about that part of your life?
Well, when my kids were small, it was definitely, like I can just think of, when you start out, you kind of set up a little corner that you're like, this is my, art corner. I'm leaving my stuff out, which I highly recommend to anybody who wants to get into it. Like have a spot where you can leave your stuff out. And, the kids it was set up in our, like the playroom. So the kids' toys and everything were in there, and they would just play while I worked on things. And they just kind of knew from really little that, mom's doing this, and they could paint alongside me or do their thing on the floor. My little guy, my youngest, used to just get all his Hot Wheels out and, do his thing and build his stuff, and I'd paint. And it's very fond memories of that. And then as they've gotten older, my boys are really into sports. They play hockey, and so that takes a really large part of our family life. And then my daughter is graduating this year. She's heading off to university. So yeah, it's kind of, there's a big part of me that's like, kind of grieving that they're growing up and that they're going to go on their own way, but I'm excited for them. And I'm also really grateful that I do have my art practice, because I know that, I'm just getting started. Like, who knows what I'll be making in 40 years, right? So I'll always have that to, keep me busy and to keep me engaged. And I love my kids. I want them to fulfill whatever they want in life. And they always come first to me. But I am glad that I do have that for myself too.
What would you say kind of came next after like the Etsy and selling your first piece? What kind of came next after that?
I feel like things, sometimes I feel like people are very generous and supportive. Like I don't know, I just feel like that's how people are. And so I feel like along the way, there's been opportunities for me that have come up that I maybe didn't pursue, but it's, people saying like, hey, I'd be happy to have your stuff in my store. I can put your stuff in my flower shop. I can, you know what I mean? Or people sharing it or commissioning things, and just slowly you're building up your work and your clientele that way. So I suppose it kind of started like that. The website, was definitely like a learning curve for me to be able to, I'm not a tech person at all. So to be able to kind of put that together and be able to manage that, learn how to photograph things. I know that was kind of a question about, the skills that you need to build, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff in there that I'd love to dive into.
Yeah.
Like just that idea of how giving the community is, and making those connections, and building those relationships. What would be some advice that you might have for people, or just things that you were maybe grateful for during those times, and in those relationships? Like,
I don't know. I think I would just say, like, give generously of yourself, right? As much as I can. I hope to give back to people, like even with, you know, say with teaching. I'm a nervous speaker. I'm not one to, you know, even doing this is a stretch for me. But, you know, when I've been asked to speak, the first time I spoke to a group, it was some teenagers, which of course,
Scary,
you know,
yeah.
right? Yeah, but at the same time, I was like, okay, this is the age that I was when I like totally shut down and was like, I'm not doing this, right? So even though I wouldn't say I'm a great teacher, I didn't go to university, I don't have a teaching degree, I do have a heart to encourage people, and so I think if you can see things that have encouraged you, like to be able to give that back to people, that would maybe be my advice, like just try to look for ways to bring things back around full circle, I guess.
On your website, you talked a little bit about like a studio journal. Is that still a thing for you? What can you tell me about that?
So it was, I started that, it was kind of like, I suppose, a blog type of setup, and it's attached to the newsletter. So if people were signed up for the newsletter, it would go straight to their inbox. I'm not always the most, I'm not always the best at keeping it up to date, but the idea of it kind of was to talk about sort of where my inspirations were coming from, what's new, updating people, what's, like say for art room, that kind of thing. And then also, I love art books. So that was a part of the studio journal, was kind of just to talk about what books I've been reading, specifically art books, or creativity, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what that was.
Right on, nice, yeah. And then after your website, what was kind of like the next main milestone after that one? Because that's quite a big milestone. So what do you think came next after that?
Probably, I would say the next big milestone would be the art room group, probably. So that was Erin Stamelschuk-Beagle, who I know you just spoke to, Teresa Eisenbarth, and Jackie de Blasio. And we all kind of came together. Erin started, wanting to put a group together to do a show. And Teresa and I had taken a class together at the Hat Art Club. So she messaged me and was like, hey, I thought maybe you'd be interested in this. And I was flattered. I was like, sure, So it's been... Again, I am very introverted, so left to my own devices, I probably would never leave my house, but it is really good to have a bit of a community and friends and people that are like-minded and understand, and that you can talk to about even, business stuff, marketing, pricing, frames, like all that kind of stuff that my poor husband is like, oh my, please stop asking me about that. I don't know, So just to have some people that understand and that you can talk to about that it's great. I wish that for every artist, that they could have a group. So us coming together, we did a couple pop-up galleries. And then we put together this space, and we have some amazing artists in here that I've really enjoyed getting to know them and getting to know their art, and that's to me the best part of the whole thing. So yeah. And what can you tell me about those pop-up galleries? Are they like a more accessible thing than a concrete gallery? Is that more accessible for people, do you think? I think it's just a fancier way of saying this is for a week only, or it's just a short term. So pop-up just being it's the first one I think we did for 4 days, which was a lot of work actually to set up and tear down for a 4-day event.
Right.
And then the second time we did it for a month, which was a little more time to keep everything set up. It was over Christmas, over November. So and then we had a really good response, and we love this building. The landlord is wonderful, and it's a beautiful historic building. So we're happy to try it for we're hoping a year, and we'll see. And
And I also really appreciate you mentioning just that idea of community and wishing that for everybody. And I think especially as an introverted person, you know, are there any tips and tricks? Like, is there anything you did, or were you just you and you just showed up as, when you could, when you mustered up the courage, just show up as yourself? Or
it is hard, right? And I am introverted, but I also can turn on a friendly, you know, like a friendly side. And then I get in my car and like have to turn off all the the music and everything, but or go like hide for a minute kind of thing. But I would say if you're wanting to meet people that do the thing you do, whether it's, you know, whatever, writing or sewing or whatever, find a class, like an in-person class. I feel like they have such value just in that, just in meeting people, because honestly, we can probably learn anything we want online. You would never have to leave your house. I can learn all the painting techniques online, right? But there is something to going to an in-person class, being with real people, seeing their work. Like it's just different, and it's worth it. So even if you're very introverted and nervous and you're brand new to it, I would definitely say like just try it, and you'll be. I feel like people will, if they can get out of their own heads and experience it, then it'll be worth it.
What's a challenge that you've maybe overcome in your creative practice? Sounds like we have the perfectionism.
This interview today, no.
Oh gosh.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I overcome probably just being nervous to speak, and that would be a big one. Speaking in front of groups and that kind of thing has been really tough for me, but probably a big growth for me. And it's tough. Like I sit in my car and I'm like, I try to like pep myself up, and you know, and I turn red, and you know, I'm like sure I'm gonna pass out, and but you know, you get through it, and then it gets easier every time. So so I would say that's probably
I think you're doing
the
great.
biggest one.
That's super fun. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And what do you feel would be a non-arts related skill that you've had to develop? Not related to your practice necessarily. What's something that you feel you've had to develop?
Probably the tech stuff. If I was, you know, like I have a niece that's 18 and she's a wonderful artist. If I was to like give her advice if she wants to sell her work, I would say like brush up on your tech, because you're going to probably need to know how to, you know, market your stuff and do social media and have a website and photograph your, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's not something that I think when you initially go into it that you realize is going to take up actually a big chunk of your time and your energy, right? So I would say that's for not art related, that would be the biggest thing I had to kind of learn. And there's still lots I could learn.
Oh, always, yeah. And I guess from there, I'd be curious, like, has there been any instances in which like having community and having peers to kind of talk with about those things that you've like been able to lean on them and lean on that community?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I actually even, like Megan Weir that I know you've met, she had me come over to her studio and very generously showed me like because she does more of her own photographing and printing at home, and I don't do that. I pay to have mine done. So she was showing me her setup, her, you know, the printer she uses, the Procreate. This is all stuff I have not learned how to do. So for sure, like, you know, people, like I said, they're supportive and they're generous, and I think that's how you grow. Is you just, you teach other people what you know, and then other people will show you what they know, and
What's been a memorable response to some of your work? Are there any things that stand out? I
think it's always an honor when people connect with your work, and I do think that people, sometimes I don't even think it's necessarily about the talent. I think it's about them connecting to either the artist, like the person, or to something in your work, right? Because I know for pieces that I've bought or been drawn to, it's not usually necessarily that I'm like, oh, this person's so fancy and they've been painting for 40 years and they're so technically strong. It's something about, you know, the work that you're making an emotional connection to. So anytime that somebody chooses a piece of my work, I do feel quite honored, because I know there's, you know, you could choose anybody's work. So there's obviously a connection that they're making with me, or with what I'm doing, that we've connected over, right? Yeah, I mean, I've done commissions for people, and usually they have a, you know, an emotional reason for having that done. So yeah, it's always, it's an honor for sure.
How has creativity kind of influenced your everyday life, would you say?
I think it's always a part of my everyday life. It's just something I have built into my life so much now that it's something I think about every day. You know, whether it's that you're just observing things, or you're looking at something and thinking like, how would I, you know, mix that color? Or, you know, sometimes in your mind you're just thinking about like, how would I put this together? How would I create this? Or sometimes it's books you're reading, that kind of thing. So yeah, I feel like it's always present.
One and the same.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful sentiment to end off on. So thank you so much for your time and energy. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, this has been TELUS Storyhive's On Location in Medicine Hat at the Art Room on 2nd. I'm Daniel J. Perry.
I'm Michael Bartz, and this is
Ursula Maser.
And we'll be right back.
Welcome to TELUS Storyhive's On Location here in Medicine Hat at Art Room on 2nd. I'm Michael Bartz.
I'm Daniel J. Perryman, and this is
Ursula Maser.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so yeah, I really enjoyed your segments with Daniel. And this segment we call the Showcase. And it's really about, showcasing your work. And especially you as a visual artist, it's really great to see the work and talk about it. We'll maybe talk about your process, maybe sometimes the stories behind the pieces, and kind of see where the conversation goes. So,
sure.
So maybe let's start, since this one's closest to me.
Okay.
Let's start with this little piece here. What's the name of this one?
Okay, so that one is called Transitions. A lot of my work, these are all these paintings are done in acrylic. I do sometimes work in oil as well, and I do find there's certain aspects of both kinds of paint that I enjoy. But the biggest thing with acrylic that I lean towards is just that it dries way quicker. So, so these are all acrylic. This painting was kind of inspired by sort of that time of day where it's in between night and day. I find that I paint a lot of things in nature that I'm drawn to the colors of. So it's not so much, I paint probably more florals than landscapes. And people sometimes will ask me like, oh, are you a gardener? And I'm like, no, I kill everything. I don't have time for gardening, but I love the colors and I love the shapes, and it's the same with the skies, right? Like there's always, you know, every day you can look at the sky and find different shapes and clouds and colors and, you know, the time of year, all those things. So I find a lot of inspiration in that. And I do love a tiny painting, I have to say. I paint smaller much more often than large, but I just like the immediacy of it. It's, you know, kind of quickly work through my ideas, and
It takes a little less time, right?
A little less pressure with a small piece, so yeah.
It's also like a landscape, right? So usually that's something you would expect to be like very big.
Right.
I guess so was that an intentional choice then to start off small with this one?
I think at first, because I did paint a lot of small paintings, like I said, just to kind of quickly work through ideas. And because I have struggled, you know, through the years with kind of that perfectionism, I sometimes find with big pieces, I do put a little more pressure on, like, this needs to be amazing. It's going to take up a whole wall. Like, whereas with a small piece, I don't feel quite that pressure. And so I think I'm able to keep a little looser, and usually those are my better pieces when I'm able to not get too tight and precious with it. So so that's probably why I do lean towards smaller pieces.
You're inspired by nature. Does that, like, kind of, as you've been growing as an artist, like, has that changed how you kind of view the world when you're outside?
I think I do look at things definitely through a lens of, like, how would I translate this? Like if I'm looking at, say a sunset when I'm driving into town with my kids, I'll look at it and think like, how would I mix that? How would I put that together? How would I layer that up, kind of thing. So I definitely do feel like you do look at things sort of through a lens of, how would I translate that? Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it's a lovely little piece.
Thank you.
Transitioning on. Let's pick up this one here. So, what is the name of this piece?
So that piece is called The Wagon. It is actually a painting I did of my own 3 kids. I don't paint people very often. I would say, this is an example of something that I would do as a bit of a challenge for myself. This is definitely more my comfort zone, and that is something that I would do to help me build my observational skills. I think it is good for me to challenge myself and to try to continue to grow, right? So I think partly too, like I do love, nostalgic pieces that give me a feeling of like, warm, cozy, I want my pieces to feel joyous. I want them to feel happy. And as my kids are obviously getting older, they are 13, 15, 17. So this is obviously a painting when they're much younger, but I guess it was a personal piece for me. Like it's just a memory and something that I wanted to have for myself, which I rarely actually paint things that I intend to keep for myself. I like to put them out in the world and make room for something new. So this was a personal piece for me, but yeah.
And then if you remember, like, what was maybe the story around this scene here that was happening?
It probably was like they were actually all in this wagon and like, we're poking at each other and but this was actually like in our yard. We have lilac bushes, and Layla, my daughter, was holding Teddy, was baby, and George is the blonde one. And they were just all grouped into our little wagon, and we used to pull them around the yard. And I love scenes that are relatable in that they're, you can look at it and think like, oh, I remember when my kids used to do that. Like I see little kids sometimes now, and playing dolls or whatever at the rink, and I'm like, oh, I remember when my kids used to bring their stuff. So it's, I suppose, just those moments that I'm drawn to. That I think everybody can kind of relate to a little bit. Yeah. It was based off of a photograph. I did have a photo of them in the wagon. I did change a bit of the lilac bushes weren't in the photo. Sure. So sometimes I will have a photo reference, and I more so with this type of thing with the nature-inspired stuff. I will intentionally try not to stay like too close to the reference, just in order to let myself have a bit of play with it and a bit of looseness. Whereas something like this, like I said, is more of a challenge for me. So I do tend to stick a little closer to the reference. Sure. Same with a commission, like I would stick closer to the reference. It just gives me a better idea of what the person's wanting.
All right, we'll go on to this lovely piece here. So maybe a little more in your comfort zone.
Yes, yeah.
What's the name of this piece?
So that one is called After the Winter, the Promise of Spring. Right?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. I can see them on the back.
Sure.
So yeah. The trick question, I know the answers.
Yes, so After Winter, the Promise of Spring. So that, I kind of feel like sometimes with my titles, some of them are just quite literal, and then other times I do have a little bit of a double meaning, right? So maybe with that one, the colors are, I feel, quite wintry, like that gray-green of the background. But sort of the double meaning would be just, after you're coming through a dark period, there is always a light on the other side. So some of the pieces do have a title that are a little more like that, or even transitions. Like it can be, a bit of a double meaning where, might be a period of your life, like we are having, where, our kids are growing and they're going to be leaving, and it is a transition period, right? So, yeah. This piece too, like I do, when I started out with art journaling and that kind of thing, I did a lot of mixed media more. So mixing, colored pencils, pastels, paint, and that kind of thing. So in this piece, I did use a bit of pencil and pastel underneath. It's hard to see, you'd have to really look for it, but I do love having that element of like a little hidden something that maybe you don't even know it's there unless I tell you, kind of thing. And it just kind of adds to the, I don't know, I guess the element of surprise when I'm making it makes it interesting for me when I'm not totally sure how it's going to turn out. Yeah.
And I guess the process, like that little secret little thing, like do you kind of know in advance what it's going to be, or do you discover that?
I wouldn't say I do know in advance. No, I think that's kind of what makes it fun, is kind of surprising yourself, right? Like those are my favorite pieces when I finish and I'm like, oh, how did I come up with that? You know, like, or there's like a little part of it that, you know, sort of like a brush stroke or that kind of thing where there's a color blended in that you weren't maybe planning, but it'll just end up being like my favorite part of it. It's usually those. I feel like I have to get into a place of kind of just being like, whatever happens, happens. And then, and then those are usually my favorite pieces, yeah.
We've got like one more piece. We're going big this time, from small to big. Good, all right. Yeah. We'll both be holding this one.
Yeah.
What's on the back, we don't know. Yeah, so tell me about this piece. What's the name of it?
This one is called Peonies and Vases, so no double meaning there. But this actually I painted from life. It was, these were all peonies from my mother-in-law's garden. She's an amazing gardener, and she's been a huge supporter of my work as well. So with the flowers, peonies are definitely in my top 3 favorite. I just feel like they're, I don't know, they're just so abundant. I look at them and I'm just like, I just love every stage of them. I love the bud stage. I love the like full bloom. I love even how they look when they're dying. Like, I just think they're so beautiful. So yeah, so this was a still life that I'd set up at home and painted from life. And I love it because it is from my mother-in-law's garden. So yeah, it does have some, I guess, a bit of sentimental to me that way, but yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I see there's like a jar here or something. What is a jam jar? Yeah. What made you want to include this in there?
Again, I think I'm drawn to things that are sort of like even these, you know, vases. Like I feel like there's something that it's that milk glass that probably every grandma has in their cupboard, right? Like I am drawn to things that I guess kind of give you that sense of like I said, like something you'd find in your grandma's kitchen or that's
nostalgia.
Yes, yeah. I'm kind of always trying to find that little bit of coziness in what I'm creating. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Yeah.
Oh, good.
And on like a sense of scale, again, is it bigger? Like, is this one of the bigger pieces you've made?
Yeah, I probably haven't painted bigger than maybe like 30 by 40. This is a 24 by 30. Okay. So I will paint a little bigger than this, but this is definitely on the bigger side. And yeah, with the background, I do feel like I still am able to kind of have a bit of that looseness and a little more freedom, and yeah, but I do, and I love pink, so.
There we go, yeah. And with this like size, is that just like you made that choice? It's like, I just want this one to be bigger?
Yeah, I
the
think,
detail?
yes, because it was such a large grouping of the flowers, I felt like I wanted a bit more room to work on it, and yeah. Every once in a while, I try to make something a little more of a feature piece. So,
yeah. Well, thank you so much for showcasing your work. It's been lovely to see it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for. I'm flattered that you spoke to me. So.
Of course. Yeah.
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah. So this has been TELUS STORYHIVE's On Location in Medicine Hat at Art Room on 2nd. I'm Michael Buss.
I'm Daniel J. Perryman, and this has been
Ursula Maser.
Thanks so much for watching.
If you or someone you know has a story to tell, scan this QR code and get in touch with the StoryHive On Location team.